To Newsviews, I'm Terrell Brown. Dr. Christina Perez, Associate Professor of Sociology and Director of the Study of Women and Gender Program at Dominican University is here, and Juan Perea, Professor of Law and the Associate Dean for Faculty Development at the Loyola University School of Law. Are we seeing companies change their policies, especially in light of some of the events that we've seen recently, Doctor?
You know, I think it's early yet in terms of, certainly there has to be much more awareness now, given the headlines and the amount of attention that the issue is getting. Most companies at this point have anti-harassment statements and perhaps even anti-harassment policies. But one lesson we can take from not just recent events, but also the experience at Uber and other places, is that the presence of a policy doesn't mean there isn't harassment in the workplace, because the policies are often ineffective or under-enforced.
Which we can talk a little bit more about that. So is there a difference between the legal definition of what harassment is versus what people actually experience and go through?
Sure. The legal definition, basically there are two kinds of harassment under Title VII. One is called quid pro quo, which is when some sort of a sexual favor or sexual behavior is necessary in order to get some work-related benefit. The other form, which is more common now, is called hostile environment. And so a plaintiff in a hostile environment needs to prove that the harassment is severe and pervasive, so much so that it really changes the terms and conditions of the employment. And I would say one problem with the legal definition, there are several problems. A huge problem is that it's too narrow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conduct that constitutes harassment and that inflicts psychological harm on victims that doesn't meet the legal standard.
So if someone is dealing with sexual harassment, what legal options, what legal recourse can they take?
Well, so there are two paths. One path is within a company using the harassment procedure. But again, this is very difficult to do. It's not a real remedy in most places because workers reasonably fear retaliation. So one can file a charge with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission alleging sexual harassment. And when you file that charge, then the commission will investigate and issue a finding of yes harassment or no harassment. And after that, you get a right to sue letter, so you have the ability to bring a lawsuit. And the government also has the ability to bring a lawsuit.
We're sitting here now having a conversation that I'm not sure we would have been having a month or two ago. Do you think this will last? Where do we go from here?
It really needs to. One of the things that all of these cases that have been brought forward has shown is how pervasive the problem is. And in sociology, we talk about this idea of rape culture. And one of the things that rape culture does is it makes it okay to objectify and sexualize women. And it doesn't really matter what the context or the place is. And so we see this in all parts of our society, and our workplaces are simply just another environment where this is happening. And so, and it's also one of the reasons why it's so hard to confront, because oftentimes the victim will feel like they did something wrong, and that is part of the rape culture as well, victim blaming, and victims also question themselves. Plus, a lot of our workplaces are really small. We work in small offices, or if we work in larger corporations, we're part of a smaller division.
It's an intimate atmosphere.
Very intimate. And so if somebody is doing something that is making it difficult for one of the workers to participate, that should be seen as a problem that creates an environment where it's really hard for workers to achieve their full potential. So from a corporate point of view, you want happy, motivated workers, and so it would make sense to address it. And yet, because of the sexism, because of the rape culture, it just becomes so difficult to do that. And so the victim who comes forward then is seen as the problem, as charges are brought against people who are very loved, who are integrated parts of our community. And we've seen that with some of the co-workers of Charlie Rose, for example, or Matt Lauer, who are devastated. So a lot of times these are, they're not not bad apples. They're respected members of our communities. And so we have to, that's really what we're grappling with it. How can we make it safe for folks to speak out against even beloved folks? And how can we receive those complaints and then work to create environments that work that really create motivated and productive workers?
Professor, I'll let you get the last word on this. About 30 seconds left.
There's some really important things employers can do. They can make, from the top, the CEO needs to make a firm commitment to anti-harassment and to enforcing anti-harassment. And then that needs to be administered, and people need to be held accountable, both for not engaging in harassment, but also for acting to correct harassment when they observe it.
Okay. Thank you so much to both of you. Appreciate you dropping by. That'll do it for Newsviews. I'm Terrell Brown. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Now we're going to send it back to the news desk.